Greetings, fellow Watford fans. Omar here, and it's time for the Orns Tuesday focus on Millwall against Watford at the Den, which is coming up tomorrow night in Bermondsey in southeast London. It is the trip that Watford have to be very wary of and be very careful of because Millwall are a team that are plucky and aggressive and physical. And this is the kind of game that Watford can easily fall prey to after a very important win over Norwich City on Saturday night last at the Vic. Millwall are coming off two consecutive wins. They defeated Bristol City on Saturday, and prior to that, a home win against struggling Middlesbrough, surprisingly struggling Middlesbrough. Millwall are now just one place behind Watford in the table. Watford 10th, Millwall 11th, both with 20 points. Watford's goal difference +3 better than Millwall's. These games, particularly between Millwall and Watford at the Den, have been very close run things and very physical affairs. Millwall have done pretty well in recent years against Watford, have beaten them in an FA Cup game a few years back when Watford were in the Premier League, and drew last season. I believe it the last time Watford were in the championship prior to this season. I think it was a 0-0 draw at that point when Watford were trying to get some wins on the road. And Watford on the road have not been great this season. They've won just one game on the road. That was against Stoke a few Sundays ago now. And for Watford to win this game against a very dangerous Millwall side, they're going to have to start the game the same way they started the Norwich game, aggressively, going forward, and not be afraid to express themselves with their football and do so without fear. Have as much confidence as you can and inject that confidence into your performance. Show what you are made of. That's what Watford have to do tomorrow night against the Millwall side, who, as I said, is a very dangerous side to play. They've got some good quality players in their side. They've got Zion Fleming, who is a midfielder, plays number 10, attacking midfielder somewhat, I think. And he scored 5 goals, each of those 5 goals coming in 5 games. So he is someone to watch out for, a very serious threat for Millwall. 5 goals in as many games for him. That leads all scorers on Millwall. In fact, that leads all scorers on Watford. So he is a goal threat that Watford's defense has to be aware of. Also, they have their up front man, Tom Bradshaw, who is the number 9 up top for Millwall, and off the bench they can rely on the veteran striker Benik Afobe. So there are goals in Millwall. In fact, Benik Afobe missed a penalty over the weekend, as did Watford's Imran Loser. So both of these teams have missed penalties in their last game, and both of these teams have goal threats. Obviously, Watford have diversified their goal threats. They have 4 goals from Ismail Assar, 3 apiece from Bakun Bayo, and from João Pedro, and from obviously Keenan Davis, who scored his 3rd goal of the season just this past weekend. So they do have goal threats, Watford, and they spread the goals around in the team. Imran Loser has 2 goals of his own, as does Ken Sema. So they do have players who can score goals, Watford. But Watford are going to have to score early in this game to put the home side on their back heels. If Watford get the first goal in this game, what Watford must then do is continue to meet the kind of pressure that Millwall are certain to throw at them. The key points in this game, I think, are going to be the first 15 minutes and also the first 15 minutes of the second half. What Watford have had a great deal of problem with this season is to start the second half the way they start the first half. If they start the first half well, often in these games, the second half does not start nearly as well for them. So Watford are going to have to be consistent with their tempo and their energy in both halves of football against Millwall if they are to have success. And most importantly, they're going to have to score first in this game if they are to have a chance at beating Millwall, which I ultimately think Watford will do. But I think it's going to be a very difficult game for Watford. I think they're going to get a lot of pressure. They're going to be a lot of balls going in by Millwall, long balls in, set piece balls that Watford defenders are going to have to be alert to. Now, the defense for Watford was really clean over the weekend against Norwich. They were very well organized. They're going to have to keep that defensive intensity, Watford, when they take on Millwall. And one of the things that the team's going to have to do is defend across the pitch when they are out of possession against the Millwall side that will look to go forward. They will look to go forward with long balls and they also look to go forward with pace, and they've got some pace in their team as well. They are a physical bunch. Watford will have to match that and exceed that tempo that Millwall will play with. And I think that what Watford will have to do is do a better job closing down spaces on Millwall players when they are on attack with the ball. What Watford didn't do well, as I said before, against Norwich, I've said this several times before, is that they didn't give close down the spaces enough for Norwich, and they did not make Norwich uncomfortable in their possession. Especially what Watford need to do in this game is make the home side uncomfortable when they have possession. That means that they're going to have to do a bit more pressing. I know that it's something that Watford don't do very often, but I do think that Slaven Bilic should employ that tactic for some of this game. Now, you can't do it all game long, but I think Watford need to press Millwall and try to force them to give up the ball quickly and try to do that at choice points in the game. I think it would be good to actually start to press them from the beginning of the game. And what you have a plan to do is if you can press Millwall for a few minutes to start the game off, maybe you can catch them in transition and go the other way, down the other end and score. That would be a really good way for Watford to stamp the confidence of a very upbeat and tenacious Millwall side, and also to establish their own game plan, Watford's, once they get the goal. I think Watford will score first in this game. I think that's going to be very important to be able to see out the first few minutes, because I think Millwall will have a lot of pressure on Watford. But if Watford play their game and instill confidence and belief in what they're doing on the pitch, and Slaven Bilic now has had a bit more time with them, I think they can translate that into a better performance and into a consistent performance and a winning performance. This has been the Orns Tuesday Focus.